It can be difficult to break down the fibers that have woven our society to our current state. However, history repeats itself and takes on a different form. Some customs and attitudes that we hold to be true today have been maintained to withstand change throughout the years. Today, we take a look at a social construct, attitude, and ideology that's been around for many years. What is machismo? By definition, it is a strong and excessive sense of masculine pride. It serves to put a man in a superior position to that of a woman subservient. A community that is often associated with machismo is the Latinx community, more specifically by its cultural traditions that reinforce gender roles and stereotypes. However, this can be seen as a multicultural issue that has been indoctrinated and maintained. It fosters negative social relationships, contributes to an increase of violence, stigmatizes mental health, and justifies a male-dominated society. This concept can be correlated to major events throughout history that have led society to the way we live today. Many theorize it began with the introduction of agriculture. The initial society was built on the fundamental roles of men being hunters and women being gatherers. Another time in history which can be associated with machismo is during conflicts of military and colonization. The Spanish conquest is considered a time in which women were seen as objects. They were traded, raped, and killed in such a way for the Spanish to assert their dominance over the people of the lands. Barbarous acts were committed to destroy culture, ethnicity, and weaken morale. Cultures clashed. Despite opposition, one thing shared between indigenous and Spanish was a male-dominated society. The Malinche is a prime example, being one of many enslaved women that served as tribute to Hernán Cortés. So how does this translate today? Today, machismo is ingrained in society. There are still behaviors, practices, and attitudes that promote a man's superiority over women. It can be disguised as semblances of love and protection, and are still viewed in areas of family, academics, jobs, and public places. It is now perceived as invisible and subtle. Our responsibility is to look beyond surface level of our everyday lives and consider perhaps behaviors and beliefs we have displayed to be deeply rooted in machismo.
In Latin American culture, machismo is a social behavior pattern in which the Latino male exhibits an overbearing attitude to anyone in a position he perceives as inferior to his. Men believe that they are superior to women and therefore believes he can control her and treat her as he wishes. I have met women who are in a relationship with a machista. It is sad and infuriating to continue witnessing machismo, where men feel they're superior than women just for the fact that they are male. I was able to interview a family member where she talked about her toxic relationship with the machista.
Hi, my name is Maria. I got married at the age of 16. He was a very good person until we had our first child. He started getting jealous of our daughter and became a machista. He would yell at the baby but when she would cry. He would tell me that she just wanted my attention, that I wouldn't give him attention anymore. He started going out with his friends, and soon after that, I found out he was actually dating other girls. He would tell me I was fat even though I was at my average weight. I was 2 years younger than him, and he would tell me I was too old for him. He was constantly putting me down, and because of that, I was always with a very low self-esteem. I really believed that I was old, when actually I was still very young. He would say he was too good for me, and even if I ever left him, nobody would ever love me. He would he was always mentally and physically abusive. He wouldn't let me out of the house or even allowed me to have friends. Only he could because he was the man. Even though we both had a full-time job, he would expect me to come home, do chores, cook, and cater to him because he would say that it was a woman's job. I stayed with him for 9 years, mainly because of our 3 kids. I thought I wouldn't make it on my own as a single mother. Eventually, I got married to a wonderful man who accepted me with my 3 kids and loved them as his own.
There have been dozens of protests around the world, including Mexico, Spain, Argentina, Chile, Brazil, to bring awareness and put a stop in machismo.
My grandmother also had a similar experience within her marriage. When she was 16, she moved out of her pueblo in Obregón, Mexico, and moved to Nogales, Mexico, all on her own. Her plan was to find a husband so that she could be taken care of and start her life as a housewife, which was the ideal life for women at the time. She soon met my grandfather and immediately got married, not for love, but out of necessity. Since my grandfather was the breadwinner, he did not contribute to any housework, and instead left all the household responsibilities to my grandmother, which was very hard for her because she had 5 children to look after with no help. Because of the ideals that were instilled onto my grandfather, he did not believe it was manly to help my grandmother with any household chores or raising their children. And because of this, my grandmother was very overworked and unhappy, which caused her to resent her life and her partner. Eventually, it got to the point where they could not even be in the same vicinity without arguing. Once my mother and her siblings were old enough to be on their own, my grandmother started working, which gave her way more control with her life. Thankfully, in more recent times, Hispanic women aren't just seen as housemakers, although within our culture, we are still taught to be subservient to men. We can go against those teachings and decide our future for ourselves, since we no longer need to depend on men to succeed.